Hello and welcome to this week's video, and I'm going to be doing some landscape photography this week. And anybody who lives in the UK will know that the main topic of conversation at the minute is flooding. I've done a similar video on flooding earlier this year when we flooded yet again. I've come to a slightly different location this time. It's Fledborough Viaduct. So yeah, this week I'm going to be doing some more flood photography, and I'll explain my reasons why and why I've come to this location in a minute. Why Fledborough Viaduct, you might say? Well, this week, because we've flooded again round here, and what I always say to people is when they're doing their landscape photography is you sometimes think that your local area, because it's the place you know the best, it's probably the place you get out most, you know. So you go to an area, you go to the same areas all the time, and people think that there's nothing new they can do there, and I think that's probably the wrong attitude to take. The thing with landscape photography is every day is different, every time the weather's different, every time the seasons are different, and you know, particularly like now we've had flooding here. This has completely changed the landscape. I can't stand where I normally stand because it's about 3 or 4 feet underwater, so that's obviously changed the landscape in itself. So I wanted to come to Fledborough really for two reasons. One, I wanted to try some long exposure photography, which to be fair is going to be really challenging today because of this high wind that we've got. I'm going to give it a go, see what I can do. But I also wanted to concentrate on black and white. And the reason for that is that, if you'll just bear with me a minute, I'll try and put my thoughts in order. Because we've got flooding under the arches here, and you'll see that in a moment, basically all those fields that are normally quite messy are now underwater. Now if I do a long exposure of that, I'm going to get a nice smooth base to the image. Now the sky, obviously that's pretty smooth anyway, but if I do a long exposure, any clouds that come over are just going to create some nice shapes in the sky. And then running through the centre of the image, you've got the viaduct, which is basically steel grey engineering bricks, which are really gritty and, you know, got a lot of texture to them. So you've got smooth texture. Now with black and white photography, that's really what you're looking for. You're looking for that contrast that really makes an image stand out. So the more contrast you've got, the better. So I think I've got a really good chance of getting a reasonable shot here if I can keep the tripod steady and the camera steady, and if you can actually hear this audio, which I'm hoping you can. So that's the first image I'm going to go for. I'm not sure what sort of exposure time I'm going to get. I'll explain a little bit more how you can work that out in a moment, but I'm going to see if I can get this first shot. I'll show you the settings I'm going to get in a moment, and then yeah, we'll take it from there. Right, for this shot, what I'm actually doing is I'm at f11, ISO 50, and at 15 seconds. And I don't think that's going to be sharp because the wind is blowing me and the tripod, but we'll give it another go. I've got some lovely cloud coming across now, so it's worth the effort, but I'm really having to sort of push the tripod into the ground and try and not get blown over myself. I've got a 10-stop filter on, which is enabling me to get to 15 seconds obviously, and it's looking quite nice. I do like the cloud over the top there, so if we can get a sharp shot, that should look pretty good. So it's a case really of just trying, and the way I've got my shutter speed is because I use an app called Photopills, where in there you can put your settings that you'd normally shoot, and then you put that you've got a 10-stop filter on, and with that it'll work out how many seconds that you need to have the shutter open for with the 10 stopper on that. It's not necessary really, you can do it by trial and error. It's just when you've got changing weather conditions, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to go for another shot. Sometimes if you can get that done straight away without, you can imagine if you've got a 2.5 minute shot, that's a lot of time to waste if you then take the image and it's too dark or it's overexposed. So that enables you to get that out the way, and you know, to hopefully hit it first time, or close to first time anyway. As I say, the wind's my main problem here. Absolutely awful. Right, well, I thought it'd be useful to sort of show you a little bit about where I am. I was hoping, as I said earlier, to do it with a drone, but there's no way to get the drone up today. It's just far too windy. In fact, I've had the drone up to do a little bit of B-roll, but like 3 feet off the ground, and it was struggling with that. So where I am at the moment, I'm actually stood quite close to the river. So if I can just show you, if you see behind me here, that's actually the river, and down here is the flood bank on this side. Obviously, if you look in that direction, you can see these are actually fields outside the river. So it just really gives you an idea of how much has been flooded. The background, you can see obviously behind the pylons, I think that's Cotton Power Station, and then further in the distance, I don't even know if you can see, is West Burton, which is down near Gainsborough, and you'll see across there as well towards, I think that's the village of Fledborough. It's just basically water all the way up to the edge of the village. So yeah, quite badly affected really. Right, hello again from the other side of the viaduct, and you can probably hear I'm literally under one of the arches of the viaduct at the minute. It's the only place I've got that's out of the wind. It's really blowing a gale at the minute. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do much more for a couple of reasons. One, the wind, and the other is, well, this is my normal footpath that I take to get any shots from this side of the viaduct. And I'm literally stood in the water now, and I don't particularly rate my chances of getting much further, because I do know that this drops off here, so literally there is nowhere to go, which is a shame, but there's not a lot I can do about it. Right, I was literally about to pack up actually. As I stated, I was going to come to the other side of the viaduct and try some images from this side. The only problem I've got, the only image I can really get is more or less a mirror image from this side as the image I took the other side. All the places where I normally go, the footpaths are just cut off. There's no way of getting down to anywhere else. And there is some quite interesting stuff actually a little bit further south down the river. There's some structures that have been left from when the old power station was here, which I'd hoped to get to, but I can actually see them, and I can see that they're out the water, but the footpath to them is about 4 foot underwater, so there's no chance of getting there. So anyway, I thought, well, I'll try an image from this side, and to be fair, from the other side what's happened is the sky's become quite bland and a little bit uninteresting, and yeah, it was, I thought, well, I'll take an image. So I've taken an image, and it wasn't until I sort of zoomed in to check the focus that I noticed that the water, where it's coming through the arches, it's being pushed through by the wind so quickly that it's making some nice little furrows in the water, which look quite nice. So what I've tried to do is I took the 24-70 lens off, and I've actually got an old Pentax lens in my bag. I did a video ages ago on using sort of legacy lenses on Sony cameras with adapters, so especially for landscape photography, because you're not really using autofocus, you can focus manually. You know, you can pick up some lenses quite cheaply, and I think this one cost me about 30 quid. So it's a 135mm prime lens, and yeah, it does a reasonable job. Well, you'll see in a minute when you see this image, but I wanted to try and cut more of the stuff out, so just focusing on the viaduct, the water, and as little of the sky as possible, because it's quite boring, and do a long exposure. That's what I've done, and I'll stick that image up at the end, and yeah, just let me know what you think of it. But yeah, if you want any information on sort of Pentax lenses and legacy lenses that you can use, then I did a video on that, and I'll put a link up here as well. So yeah, that's me done for today. I really enjoyed it actually. It's been quite nice, although it's been quite cold, colder than I expected it to be. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you've not subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll fairly shortly be up towards about 500 subscriptions to the channel. So it'll be nice to get to that point, and then push on from there. So yeah, I shall see you with for the next one. I don't know what I'm doing. It could be wildlife, could be some more landscape, could be local, could be a bit further away. But yeah, I'll see you then.